continue for the discussion. So, kepada Bapak Ibu peserta, silahkan apabila ada pertanyaan, mohon bisa disebutkan namanya, pertanyaannya apa, dan ditujukan kepada siapa. Okay, so in our screen, we have the 3 questions from the Pak Sudarto and Bu Puput. This question for Mr. Dr. Leong Kamweng. The first, how to monitor the diameter at the bottom has been reached or fulfill the diameter RM, and how if there is an earthquake that held on the stone column, is there any impact to the stone column after that event? The second question, what is the benefit of deep fibro technique compared to other methods? It means the rigid inclusion and deep soil mixing. And when or at what situation do we have to use deep fibro technique? Because there are always cost-related consideration during planning of soil improvement phase. The third, by using a fibro soil stone column method for storage tank, how to mitigate and ensure there is no oversettlement occurred during construction and hydro testing stage and operating stage. If oversettlement is happen after hydro testing stage of facility storage tank, what should we do to solve the problems? I think this is we have the 3 questions. Please, Dr. Leong Kam,
sure,
give some response.
I've answered online, but I can repeat it. So the very first question is that how do you monitor diameters and whether the bottom of is reached? So what is normally done in the actual site is that we will carry out CPD tests. We divide the treatment area into smaller panels. We carry out the CPD test, and we will know for that particular panel what is the targeted design depth. Okay. So, and then when the equipment that we use, which is the VibroCAD or dry bottom fit method, it has a push down force. And all this whole process are captured real time in a computer. So the operator can know that if you hit, when he hit the depth or the targeted design depth, what are the amps, or because this is an electric vibrator, it actually captures the energy or the amperes by transfer into a vibrator. So we actually can know whether each column has reached the targeted depth. Okay, and every charge of stone, because this is a dry bottom fit, is actually a control. That means, as I mentioned earlier, the stone can only come out at the tip of the vibrators, and you can calibrate every charge of the stones. So, and when the whole process is captured by using a computer, you can actually estimate the total charge of stone delivered to each column, to each depth, and then you can actually get the actual diameters of the column with depths. So that's how you control. And there's, as I mentioned in the reply, is that to Ibu Pupu, is that there are many documented literatures that talk about they went and investigated the area after earthquake, treated and not treated. I think there are a lot of evidence, especially in US, that shows that stone columns is good in dealing with earthquake, because what stone column does is besides reinforcing the soil, it provides the right resistance against the earthquake. And one of the most important thing is being a big drain. It helps to discharge the accessible water pressure that is induced during an earthquake. So these are a couple of the benefits of stone columns. On the second point, which is the benefit, I think every technique that be it rigid inclusion, soil mixing, or even deep vibro techniques has its pros and cons. And very much depending on the soil type you have, what kind of function you need to design the ground improvement, and first and foremost, the availability of a material, especially in Asia when it's a very widespread geography. For example, if you have your site is next to a lot of boulders and so on, of course, any technique that uses the stone will be the cheapest because you don't need to bring in any additional material. And you have soil that is very organic. then it may not be suitable when you're dealing with soil mixing. Because you have too much organic, it will affect the cementation process. Similarly, for vibro compaction, if you have sand that is very silty, with fines content above the 15%, you will find that it's very hard to reach the required desiccation. So very much depending on the soil structures, what are the functions of that you want to support. So these are these. I think it's important that I always encourage people is that maybe engage the specialist earlier to have a discussion of looking at your soil types, and then we can help to give you some pointers of the evaluate how good the soil for the various type of ground improvement techniques are. So there's not one fixed solution for all type of soil. I must say that. And on the point, the third questions are when you're using stone columns, how do you mitigate there's no oversettlement? I think first and foremost is to have the enough SI information, be it by doing SPT or be it by using doing CPTs. Have sufficient SI under the tank. The reason is that the more you know about the soil risk underneath the structure, the better you can mitigate this risk early on. And if you know the soil risk, then we can design and changes the treatment intensity across a certain tank, so that the differential settlement can be better managed during design stage. So that's point one. And point two is that during the actual construction is to have the right QA/QC so that ensure that each columns are installed to your actual design depths. That will help to mitigate the risk. And then during the hydro test time, I think a lot of scenario is that we tend to want to load the hydro test very fast, because it's different from a pile tank where you can just hydro test this tank very fast. What it does is that during hydro test, each stage of loading has to be loaded slower to ensure that settlement consolidation settlement has taken place, or the settlement has stabilized before you load it up the second stage. So that has to be controlled as compared to the piling solution. So that one you have the couple steps you need to follow. And if all these things you follow and still there is oversettlement, then you have to review the oversettlement. Does it still meet the tank spec, which means the API standard? If you still meet the tank spec, then you can still continue to operate. But if let's say the oversettlement has exceeded the tank specification, so normally what we can do if the exceed is not so much, the key is the connection of the pipe to the tank. So you can use hanger to correct the differential settlement. That's one part. And when the situation becomes very bad, what normally you will do is that you need to check out the tank and fill up with sand layer. So these are a couple of things you can adopt when you're having this problem. Okay, I hope I answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Liang. Any question again? I think the first question, it's okay. The first session. Maybe any questions for Professor Chu Jian? Okay. Question for Prof. Chu Jian. There are one question from Hafid and Jammar. Have you considered any environmental impact during the construction of coastal protection infrastructure? Please, Prof. Chu Jian.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And this is indeed a very important question. In fact, this is also one of our research which we have been doing at NTU. Yeah, since the purpose of the research is how to restore the marine ecosystem. Yeah, indeed, any coastal protection or land reclamation projects is going to affect our coastal environment. The question now is how do we restore? That means there are two tasks. Task number one is how to minimize the impact, and question number two is we have already have negative impact to the environment. Then how do we restore, reinstate the original environment. So we have measures in place. For example, how to cultivate coral reef and to let the coral to be restored. And second is how to restore mangroves, seagrass. And so there are various ways. In this presentation, which I do not have time to share. But however, in the future, if there's any opportunities, I can talk on this topic as part of the presentation.
Okay. Because the limited time, I think for the discussion, I finished for this because we have past 5 minutes more. So with the two international experts presentation very fruitfully, so please give a big applause for them. Thank you once again, and this time back to the Mbak Farida, please.
Terima kasih Bapak. Terima kasih Bapak Ahmad Rifai selaku moderator, and thank you to the speaker Mr. Leong and Prof. Chu Jian. See you next time. Dan Bapak Ibu serta partisipan sekalian, waktu telah menunjukkan pukul 12:15 waktu Jakarta. Kami persilakan kepada Bapak Ibu untuk melaksanakan ibadah dan istirahat. Namun sebelumnya akan kami ingatkan kembali bahwa nanti di akhir acara akan ada pengundian door prize bagi 10 peserta yang beruntung. Untuk daftar hadir atau absen, link presensi akan kami bagikan setelah nanti di sesi yang ketiga. Baik, kita nanti akan berkumpul kembali di ruangan yang sama pada pukul 13 tepat waktu Jakarta. Selamat istirahat.
You are ending it.